Let's talk to Kay Smythe now. She's a news and commentary writer for the Daily Caller, and she joins us on the phone. Kay, good to talk to you today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Just like another great example of my home country, I don't know, it's being weird and embarrassing itself. I mean, I do think Biden's kind of doing the same thing, which kind of evens the playing field a little bit. But yeah, you're not allowed to touch the king, man. You're not allowed to do that.
Yeah,
That's against the rules.
Is there anything for us, any lessons to learn here? I do see that people can't help but notice that these are two old, hapless white men just strolling around together. Are any specific lessons we should derive from this?
I just think, it's really interesting. I was chatting to your producer right before we came on, and I was sort of saying, we haven't really seen that much in the press about this visit. And I think just because it's so difficult to watch, and it makes both of our countries look so weak.
Yes.
Like the first thing that I saw this morning, which I wrote about for the Daily Caller, was Biden trying to talk to one of the king's guards, which is, again, I don't really know that much about the monarchy, and even I know that that's something you're not allowed to do.
Wait. The King's Guard, if I have this correctly, these are the guys who with the red uniforms and the big black hats, the big woolly black hats. Is that who you're talking about? And they famously don't speak to anyone?
Oh, yeah, they're allowed to speak, and sometimes they'll have a chat with the king, and I know that they used to, have a chat or whatever with the queen, but no, it's a whole thing. They're not even allowed to move to wipe sweat off their faces on 90-degree days, the three of those we've had ever.
And so Biden was testing them. Biden was trying to figure out whether or not that was real, I guess.
Well, okay, yes, perfect spin. CNN and stuff, they could have at least said that, right? Because that would look clever. That would look kind of good for him. It sort of looks like, this is America making fun of Britain again. And, who doesn't love that? But they just kind of shuffled on and ignored it. And then I saw another video of basically King Charles, I don't know the way I described it at work was sort of when you're trying to shuffle grandma along at the salad bar and making sure that she's going to get everywhere that she needs to get, okay? And that's sort of all I've really seen of this trip.
Easy on the croutons, grandma.
Oh gosh, I just don't know who it makes look worse though. It just makes both countries look so weak, in my opinion.
It is amazing. And then Biden and the new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, they got together and had the traditional British tea. They got together and they made special mugs for Joe Biden. Let's see if we can hear this audio. This is Joe Biden, Prime Minister Sunak, saying, "We made these special mugs for you, Joe."
Thank you, media.
Joe, we've got these,
thank you, cameras.
Special mugs. New Downing
Thank you,
Street
media.
He says, "We've got these special mugs for you, new Downing Street mugs." And you hear Biden kind of say in a very tired voice, "Wow, new Downing Street mugs." So that's what our world leaders are doing. They're drinking tea.
They're drinking tea, sitting around doing nothing, not solving any problems, while all of the world's major evolving economies are slowly becoming the world's strongest economies. That's what we're sitting here watching. They're watching us sort of drip into our greed and sort of slide down the hill of our greed, where we're just so we just feel untouchable. And it's kind of terrifying to think that with all of the crises going on in the world right now, both, within each of our countries independently, but then on a sort of global scale, that this is what they're focused on. I saw the press paying more attention at Downing Street to the cat that lives there than to anything that was sort of going on that could really, truly influence world events.
Yes.
So, it's just it's a lot of doom and gloom for a Monday, but at least we got some funny clips from it.
So they covered the cat. So who do you think's better at covering frivolous nonsense, the British press or the American press?
Well, I work with the American press, and I cover a lot of frivolous nonsense. It really helps my mental health. You'd be amazed how many stories I can get out about Morgan Wallen and Yellowstone in a week.
Yeah.
Although I will say that Yellowstone has had a rather macro influence on the American psyche,
People
the economy.
watch that.
I could write a PhD about that.
I bet.
There's enough of a science in it. But no, it's... There's a lot of frivolous stuff in the UK. This is the nation that brought you Love Island. I think, American Idol was Pop Idol before it moved out here. We're a nation that sort of used to really lead the way in terms of pop culture.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we can give you as much trash as you want.
That's
if you
right.
want it, Britain's got it.
Yeah, you gave us The Office, too. That was nice of you. I mean, we
you're
basically
so welcome.
straight up stole that, but still, that was really nice. Let me, with regards to, powerful moneyed interests, I thought there was an interesting moment today. John Kerry obviously flew private to make his way over there, and he was with Joe Biden and King Charles and a group of so-called philanthropists and investors. In other words, people with either a lot of money or people who manage a lot of other people's money. And here's what he had to say about why it's so important that they all got together.
There's a full understanding here, particularly with the evidence of the last few weeks piling on, that when scientists are telling us that they are terrified by what they're seeing, and when we hear those same scientists telling us that we are in uncharted territory, this group has come together to try to figure out, okay, how do we deploy the funds necessary to invest to create the new clean energy economy? And I'm glad to say you recognize many of the people here, Your Majesty and Mr. President, you've been with them before. They represent literally trillions of dollars, either invested or of assets under management or assets owned. And they are making decisions every single day about how to accelerate this transition.
This might be the single most elitist clip we've ever played. And he's saying, look, all of you people are in the room because you either have trillions of dollars or you manage trillions of dollars. And it's so great. And we're going to change the entire global economy around this green energy push, which, of course, has destroyed human flourishing everywhere it's gone. So what do you make of this, Kay?
Dude, that is so disheartening. I'm sorry to sound so colloquial about it, but the first half of that speech, I was like, oh, no, I'm a scientist by trade. I just write by trade. But, that's what my background's in. I'm terrified about the position that we're in as a world. Whoever wants to get together and solve it, I'm here for it, so long as it doesn't include, like genocide and stuff. But no, we're going to focus on what this horrific manipulation of the climate crisis has become, which is just racked with hyperbole. The same, it's no different to like the homeless industrial complex, any of these crises that these global elites actually make more money off than actually invest into any solutions of. And it's just, again, we sit here and for some reason we just continue to acknowledge the propaganda as it's being fed to us. And at this point, Vince, I'm like, what are our choices here? Because if this is what our leaders are focused on, we either need like completely new leaders or we need a louder voice to say, actually, here are some of the real problems. Like, how is it that a movie that came out last week that focuses on child sex trafficking and the prevalence of that in the world right now, that isn't even a conversation I've seen a single politician try to have. And it's happening all over this country, all over the world. There are solutions that we can act on now. But no, let's focus on climate change, which we literally don't even understand as a science. And honestly, it's just like move out of floodplains. Like, guys, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And we know how to destroy people's livelihoods. This is how many countries have to suffer under the weight of all of this? How many people need to die because of this decision making? How many brownouts and blackouts do we need? How much more pollution do we need to create in order to create the batteries for electric cars that are going to do nothing to change any of the so-called emissions problems? It's all just so preposterous. It's a giant scam. And at the front of it are people who look like Frankenstein's monster, John Kerry, telling a group of trillionaires that it's so great to be in the room with you as we reshape the global economy.
It's just terrifying. But, I wrote a piece last year, Vince, that I think the headline was something, a host of cartoonish Bond villains are deciding your fate from the Swiss Alps. And I was just writing about Davos. And I'm just like, this is just what the world has become right now. This is why I'm so proud of the number of Americans who sort of sat back, see what's going on, not just, I guess, here in the States, but what's happening in terms of even just the global supply chain, for example. And they're saying, you know what, I don't really trust that this is sustainable. I don't know for sure that this is going to be something that exists in the same way that it does now in, 10, 15 years, maybe even 5 years time.
Yes.
And they're sort of going back to this far more, I wouldn't even call it subsistence living, but relearning skills that we had as a species for literally millennia that have been wiped out in less than a generation or 2 generations by these global elites and by the way that they have tried to reshape the face of our sociology. And it's so inspiring to know and see so many people sort of standing by and being like, you know what, if you guys are going to keep doing this stuff, we're just not going to trust you anymore. We're going to focus on what we can do for ourselves in our small community. And that's what I think everyone should be really doing right now. Like, it's taking stock of what's in your neighborhood, what's nearby, what can you do at home, and take care of yourself, because these guys ain't going to do anything.
Yes, preserving your liberty is a difficult thing. It's not an easy thing. It challenges you, and you should do that. That's a good idea. Hey, you mentioned this movie, by the way. I'm going to try and get to it later in the program as well, but Sound of Freedom, that stars Jim Caviezel. Have you seen this movie by any chance yet, Kay?
So, no, but only because I literally haven't had a day to myself in like 6 weeks.
It's okay.
But I'm looking forward to seeing it. I've been reading about, and writing about it, or not writing about it, but sort of reading about it to write about it in the run up to its release.
Yes.
And, we have so many great reporters over at The Caller that cover what's going on in terms of, attacks on children.
But at its core, it is a movie about a very real phenomenon, child sex trafficking, which is a scourge upon the earth. And any decent human being should want to confront it and end it. But there's I've noticed a number of media attacks against the film, as if the film is the product of some sort of conspiracy theory. They make it, it's almost they're running cover for child sex trafficking. CNN had coverage this weekend that was designed to attack the movie. I don't even know how you could do that. The Washington Post referred to it as a low-budget film about child sex trafficking and said that it almost topped the box office on July 4th, but its star, Jim Caviezel, has linked it to the QAnon movement. I'm sorry. What? So you are mad at people who don't like child sex trafficking? I'm not following here.
Yeah, so I'm just going to say this, and you've told me to say this in the past. I'll say it. I am not suicidal. I'm not suicidal. I need everyone to hear that. But to go even more deep down into this crazy conspiracy world, when you actually look at all of these different hit pieces out against the film, they all read exactly the same. It's almost like there was a memo sent to all of these different news outlets saying, this is what we want people to think of this film. Like, this is what we want people to focus on. We want anyone who doesn't have the time to go and see it to just put the word Sound of Freedom in the same box as like QAnon conspiracy and completely disregard it. Forget the fact that The Guardian actually wrote about the exact crisis in the exact same place back in 2018. Forget about, I don't know. It was eerie, Vince, reading through all of these different hit pieces and being like, this looks like it was all written by the same person. But it's Rolling Stone, Guardian, CNN.
Yes. How about fewer pieces about how Jim Caviezel's a bad person? How about more pieces about how Jeffrey Epstein's a bad person? How about more pieces about all of the people who are connected to him? How come we haven't gotten to the bottom of literally any of that? It's all, it's disgraceful is what it is, Kay.
Oh, it's absolutely disgraceful. It's disgusting. It's so embarrassing isn't the right word, because I think that is far too flippant. But again, this is not just a crisis that exists here in the United States. It exists in literally every country. There is nowhere where this is not happening. Yeah. But we have the resources here. I know people who go and rescue kids from these situations in foreign countries, and they are restricted on what they're even allowed to do here in the United States. And that in and of itself is a problem. I do not think a film, a well-made film, shedding light on this problem is really like there's just got to be something wrong with you if you think that this is a bad, this movie is a bad thing. Like, there is something wrong with you.
Well, we also know the border is wide open, and that the cartels are exploiting it for this very thing, child sex trafficking. The Biden administration has been dumping our money into these nonprofit organizations who are helping ferry people into the United States. So any attention on this issue further exposes their own cruel failures. And this is, it's a big deal, and I'm glad you've got the proper perspective on it, of course. Kay Smythe, thank you very much from the Daily Caller. Great to talk to you, as always.
Thanks, sorry, it's so doom and gloom today, Vince.
I have no idea what you said, but thank you very much.